Welcome back to the Brain Injury Discussion. This is Jay. We're on episode 5, and this episode is going to be talking about alcohol. There are many things that are unsafe for us that are actually perfectly legal. Driving Interstate 95 comes to my mind. But there's also other things, smoking being one, and the one we're talking about today, which is alcohol consumption. Obviously legal past the 21st birthday, and it is a cause and a attributing factor to brain injuries. And this is a common thing that we're going to see. Obviously, we should discuss this. Again, I'm not going to recommend alcohol use, but if you are going to do so, you got to do so legally, so after the 21st birthday, and you got to do so safely with a plan. So let's get into it. The Journal of Neurotrauma in 2016 had an article, Patterns of Alcohol Use After Brain Injury, that sees that there is a comparable link between alcohol pre and post brain injury, that they're very commonly seen together. And of course, we know that alcohol is a toxin to the brain and it gets absorbed into the bloodstream via way of your stomach. So when you're drinking it, it goes down into the stomach, it gets absorbed into the bloodstream. And like we've talked about in the past about like anoxia, carbon monoxide, um, anything that goes in the bloodstream does eventually go to your brain. And we don't want that. We don't want toxins in the brain. We want healthy stuff going to the brain. But what alcohol does inside your brain is it does a lot of things, but it takes, if I could sum it up, it would take it from 100% and start reducing that capability. So after one drink, you're probably at 90, 80, and it starts going down and down and down the more alcohol you intake. So obviously, that's another reason why I can't recommend it because one, it is a toxin. Two, it slows your cognitive abilities. Three, it impairs your executive functioning. Alcohol, as written in a 2023 article, Alcohol Related Brain Damage, they find that excessive alcohol use and excessive alcohol intake, and also maybe even the withdrawals, can also be damaging to the brain and also the rest of the body. Obviously, yes, it's legal after the 21st birthday, but it shouldn't be taken lightly. An article written in 2021, Traumatic Brain Injury and Alcohol Intoxication, the Effects of Injury Patterns, direct correlation between the probability of the brain injury and the greater likelihood to injuries. Now, this is written in the European Journal of Trauma and Emergency Surgery. They find that there's a greater likelihood of injuries, not, not withstanding that, yes, you can get a contusion. You definitely can get concussions. You can, we talk about that mechanism of injury of a fall or maybe something falling on the head or on the brain. So again, head trauma, penetrating and non-penetrating. So alcohol can definitely be one of those attributing factors. So again, looking at it from the attributing factor standpoint, you know, the alcohol could be the difference between someone not falling and someone falling. And that fall could indeed hit their head and hit their head in a very severe way. Now, again, we talk about everyday dangers. And again, I-95 is one of those, as well as, driving certain roads. Obviously, driving, there are safety measures in place, and the same thing should be applied to consuming alcohol as well. So, as soon as alcohol touches your lips, be done driving, have a plan to get back, call a friend, call a cab. Um, and so remember, it's not just about you driving on the road that's unsafe when you have consumed alcohol. It's also about other people, other innocent people, mind you. Innocent people might be, innocent people can be hit by a drunk driver. And it's not necessarily just adults, but think about who else might be in that car. So the next question, what can we do about this? Well, a 2011 article, Traumatic Brain Injury and Alcohol Intoxication, they find that prevention is the best medicine, especially when it comes to younger populations, so especially the youth. And, a lot of the alcohol use is in fact during someone's youth, especially right after the age of 18, even though it's not legal until it's 21. You want to talk to the youth about this. There's noticeable trends about it. Prevention is actually working in some cases. The same article says, yes, this is very accessible, but there's a common theme that, yes, we need to get the family involved. We need to get the community involved. Obviously, we need to be good influences on the younger generation. And so, we shouldn't be, drinking to excess in front of them because they're going to look at that and they might think a certain way about it. And this is not necessarily just about the youth. A 2022 article, um, a systematic review, understanding how and why alcohol interventions produce and reduce problematic alcohol consumptions, they note that there's a rise of alcohol consumption, especially dangerous alcohol consumption, among older adults. And of course, this is another one where it's not just prevention, it's mitigation, where you know, there's noticeable patterns of this on the rise. So now they got to help correct the adults, especially the seniors. And they find that peers, friends, family, when they're able to talk about alcohol consumption openly and they're able to do so with that person, they're going to get some good results. And that's part of mitigation and prevention, which, again, for someone who might or might not be already unstable, if we start impairing the brain, the brain processes what's in the ears, which is part of the balance operations of the brain, and we start putting alcohol on top of it, we're only causing more instability there. So we don't want to add, a known toxin to the body, especially to the brain. Alcohol is toxic to the brain. It's not good for your brain. So alcohol is one of those attributing factors, especially when it comes to falls, when it comes to DUIs, driving under the influence. Obviously, you wouldn't operate a heavy machinery when you're not at 100% or when you're sleepy, or you shouldn't be driving when you're sleepy either. You shouldn't be driving when you're distracted by one of these. But, you know, you shouldn't drink when you're driving either. Obviously, a lot of these have warning labels, um, and I would definitely, advise that you look up the warning labels. Now, to give you an example about why this should be taken seriously, I'm going to pull somewhat from a real life story. Imagine a friend of yours, someone you knew, especially like someone I knew in the military. Imagine if they took a fall from 20 feet plus, actually 20 feet plus. Um, and prior to that injury, this person was very well, very healthy, physically fit. And then the next time you saw him, they're in a wheelchair. Young too, like early 20s, but yet still legal to drink. Now, imagine if alcohol had a part to play. That could have been very easily prevented with maybe cutting back on the alcohol usage or maybe not even drinking alcohol to begin with. That could have possibly prevented that life-changing injury from happening. Now, when we think about that, it's like, okay, that's an extreme example. Well, it does happen. And, if you were, like, let's say, in a very physical job like the military, police, firefighter, that would, especially if you broke a lot of bones from a fall from 20 plus feet, especially if you had a head injury, a brain injury, um, that would affect your ability to carry out that job later on, especially when it comes to the military, because those are some serious injuries. That's a lot of metal they have to put in your body to repair it. And so, you know, if alcohol was involved in that, um, that is something that could have been prevented. And so when we look at it from that standpoint, an injury like that could have been easily prevented, and someone's life not only wouldn't have been in danger, or would have been in a whole lot less danger, um, their careers wouldn't be, in a lot of danger. So workplace culture, especially my former one, the military, um, sometimes it's work hard, play harder, which I'm not necessarily against, but it's work hard, play harder, but do so in a fun manner, because when you're having too much fun, it becomes no fun. And so when you think about in the realm of, yes, have fun in your off time, but you're not required to drink. You're not required to, drink excessively. And, if you do so, have a plan. Be safe out there because you don't want to be the person who, is in their career or in their wonderful job who, can't physically do something like the military because, yeah, you had one accident that could have been prevented by controlling your alcohol intake. Now, again, that's why I stress it very carefully and very heavily. Do so safely because that can happen, and it's a very real situation too. And not only are we talking about the bones and everything else being broken, we're also talking about brain injury. And so, that person would then probably benefit from some good case management. Two brains are always better than one, but let's not intoxicate them. Anyways, that is the brain injury discussion, episode 5. As always, the sources will be in the description below. This is coming out mid December. And again, just like my driving episode, be safe out there, especially this holiday season. And, ask if the eggnog is spiked before you go drink it if you're an eggnog consumer like I am. Um, but yes, please be safe this holiday season. And again, if you're going to consume alcohol, have a plan. Do not drive when you consume alcohol. And of course, I wish you all the best. Have a wonderful one.